Kendell Lenice, and welcome to Kendell Lenice Live right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Before we get started, do me a favor and subscribe below. It's so important that you do that because I'm trying to bring you great content, especially for the African American community. It's all about bursting myths about us. And we talk about all things from autism to relationships to wellness, fitness, mental health, and so many other things. We talked about colorism. I have forums for men and women. So it's a little bit of everything, but I want to show this side of Black life because on social media sometimes and in movies and television, you see us one way. So I wanted to display something different here on YouTube. But again, before we get started, do me a favor and subscribe below. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I'm happy and pleased to have my guest with you today. We're going to be talking about health and wellness from a holistic approach. Before I introduce my guest, I just want to read her very nice resume. I'll just say her bio because she is the expert today. So we want to hear what she has to say. And I'm talking about Tacoma Lewis. So she has over 5 years of experience in integrative wellness coaching and individual clients, working with people to help them achieve their goals and maintain a healthy and balanced life is truly her passion. She was introduced to health coaching because of her own battle with obesity, lupus, and I'm not sure, and I want to talk about, and she had something else, and I want to talk about that with her because I want to make sure I say it correctly. I remember trying everything, every diet, she said, every fad with no success. It wasn't until she got to the root of the cause, which was her lifestyle. And that was a significant change that was maintainable. She holds a professional certification through Christian Bible Institute and Seminary in holistic health coaching. In addition, she has studied and read countless books by Dr. Layla Africa and Dr. Sabi, as well as Queen Afua and many others. Her goal as an integrative holistic wellness coach is to provide all support, information, motivation you need to achieve and maintain your goals. She is committed to helping her clients realize and unlock their full potential. She takes the integrative approach to coaching, which means she looks at all aspects of life and work alongside with support and optimal health and wellness with necessary life changes to achieve your goal. That was excellent. That was outstanding. So I'm excited to speak and I'm excited for you all to hear. And I'm going to introduce you to Tacoma Lewis. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm so excited to have you on, and I definitely wanted to make sure you were here because I want you for our audience, because talking about wellness and health from a holistic approach, I'm all for that because sometimes food is killing us. Mm-hmm. You know, when you think about how we eat as a community and think about the things that, you know, we don't think are bad for us, we just think they taste good, but we don't realize some of the things that we're eating and ingesting are bad from us. So I just want to just start right off talking about how we eat. And how do you feel about how we eat as a holistic health coach? And I say we as a people, not all of us, but just we collectively, because I know I eat differently and so do you and so do many of our viewers, but just as a whole.
I'll say we eat terribly, only because some of the choices that we make, they weren't created for our genetic makeup. So when you hear people talk about things like dairy and things like meat, that is a part of Western diet. That's not a part of our diet and where we come from. And our DNA and how we are made and configured, it doesn't align with that food. So when I say we eat bad, it's because the foods that we choose to eat, they really weren't intended for us to ingest.
Right.
So we can show definitely some improvement. And I always tell my clients, you know, I don't aim for perfectionism. I understand that it is a journey. My goal is to always help them make smarter choices over time gradually, and then they'll see eventually, you know what, that makes me feel terrible. I'm not going to eat that anymore. So as a whole, we could do a whole lot better. Our numbers are up as far as heart disease, obesity, you have diabetes. There's so many different diseases that come from unhealthy diets and lifestyle. And I think as African Americans, we are very, very high on the statistical chart.
Absolutely. And I know I'm a pescatarian, and because I still eat salmon, pescatarian, and I still eat fish. I have never eaten pork in my whole life. I stopped eating beef so long ago, I can't even remember, because I suffered from fibroids years ago, and not that long ago, I'm saying years ago, but I had a surgery, in 2018, but I've had fibroids for many years, although I didn't eat a lot of red meat. Even when I did, that didn't help. So I haven't eaten red meat in, I can't even remember. And then chicken, I haven't eaten chicken probably 5 years, maybe. And then this past January, I stopped eating dairy because I didn't like what it was doing to my body and my digestive system. So I want to talk about dairy for a moment, and then I want to see why. I know you say you have lupus and you were obese, and I'm looking at you now. You're not. So something is working. And then you said you had something else, and I know with the medical terms, I didn't want to say it incorrectly. What else was it? And then I want to talk about dairy in our digestive systems. Excuse me.
It's called Sjogren's.
And what is that?
Sjogren's is an autoimmune disorder as well. Many patients that have lupus, they tend to also test positive for the Sjogren's syndrome. And basically what it does is it affects your glands. So like your saliva glands, your tear glands, all of that stuff dries up. You can get ulcers in your mouth. So it's really a link to lupus. I would say not quite as harsh, but it does affect like your liquid glands, so to speak.
Oh, wow. So with lupus, so you still, of course, have lupus, and then the Sjogren's, you're still experiencing complications with that. Is one exclusive to the other? Like, could you have Sjogren's without lupus or lupus without it, or they are usually twins?
You can have them independent of one another. I think it's really important for people who are diagnosed with lupus to understand early on that your lifestyle and diet plays a huge role in how it affects your body long term. And what I mean by that is when I initially was diagnosed, it was just discoid form, which is only on the skin. But gradually, it is to my belief that because of my lifestyle, because of obesity, it then trickled over to affect my respiratory system, my digestive system, and other areas. So it's important for people when you get these diagnoses, especially if you are young, I was only 22, that you take your health serious in that moment, because it could be the very thing, that keeps you from going to the doctors long term and keeps you alive, really, so to speak, without aches and pains and medication and things of that sort. But you can have them independent of one another. But it's typical for a patient to develop Sjogren's, especially if they neglect their health.
Yeah, and it's SG. How do you spell it?
SJ. Look, SJ. I have to write it out.
Okay.
Because I always have to look at it.
Yeah. Because it doesn't look like it would say Sjogren's.
Yeah. I'm not sure what language it is, but it's SJOGREN.
Okay. So you're saying also if you have been tested and diagnosed with lupus and maybe not Sjogren's, is that something you should make your doctor aware of, or should you get tested for that? Should you say something?
Well, they'll test you independently, depending upon your symptoms as they develop. They may say, you know what, you've been complaining about, they usually will ask you, do you have dry mouth? Do you notice you're having difficulty crying? Have you seen any ulcers in your mouth? You can also have it vaginally too, with dryness and things of that sort. So they'll ask you about these symptoms, and then based on that, they'll run a specific blood test that speaks to the Sjogren's disorder.
Okay. The reason why I ask you, because you know the disparities that Black women have when they go to the doctor, and doctors, and I mean, this is real. You guys can look this up, and it's not just my opinion. So it's important to ask questions when you go to the doctor's office. It's important that you stress certain tests and blood work. So that's why I asked Tacoma that. Is that something that you should tell them? So if they don't ask you, you know, a load of questions to see kind of what's wrong and what symptoms you have, maybe that's something you may want to bring up or just maybe test it for with the blood work.
And you should also, I advocate for people to be an advocate and an active participant in your own wellness.
That's
you
right.
know, doctors are not experts. You know your body the best, because the way lupus appears for me, it appears different for the next woman. And so I'm with me 24/7. So it's my responsibility to communicate with my physician, but it's also my responsibility to be well versed in the disorders that affect me. So I always tell people, pick up a book on lupus, read an article, Google it, learn what's going on with your disorder, get in these forums and get involved so that you can have a thorough understanding of what's going on with you. Because even if you see a rheumatologist, which is someone who specializes in rheumatic disorders, they treat many different disorders, and so many of them overlap and overlay. They're not going to be an expert in your particular care, but together, which is how it should work, you guys can come to the best solution. But they really need your help. And if you are very passive in your visits, they may or may not be as engaged. I am very, very engaged in my visits for myself as well as my children. And I wish that, you know, that's one of the biggest things that I like to tell people is be an advocate for your health. It is your job. This is your body. You go to the doctor for assistance.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. I think that's so important to have said that. I think it's so important to really advocate for yourself. It's important to do that, not just as a Black woman, but a male or whoever is listening to this, because it's so important that you advocate for yourself. I'm going to keep saying that because, like Tacoma said, they are not an expert on whatever it is. You know, they're there really to, I don't want to say it, but to diagnose you and maybe give you all kind of prescriptions and pills, and not come from a holistic standpoint. And a lot of things that you eat or can eat can help you or harm you. So I wanted to, it's so many questions that I want to ask you, Tacoma, but I want to go back to the dairy question. And then I also want to know how, and I'm sure everybody wants to know, and I talked about obesity, but how you lost the weight holistically. So let's start with dairy and the dangers of dairy.
Dairy is so dangerous because it's mucus forming. And the closest analogy that I can give is if you've ever had a baby and they get sick and they have like this thick phlegm of mucus, it may come from their nose or it may come up orally. Imagine that being in your system from the cheese, from the milk, from the yogurt. And what happens is disease and disorder can stick to that. And so your body can't process and break that down. So that mucus is just there, growing and growing. And all the illness and things, they stick to it. That's why it's called mucus. And it makes it super dangerous because your body can't eliminate and process it through the normal GI tract. You really have to kind of cleanse and detox. And when I say that, I'm not talking about these little detox teas. I'm talking about getting with a real herbalist that specializes in cleansing and detoxing and helps you formulate different herbs for your specific body and your specific goal. So mucus, dairy in itself is really not good. It causes all kind of issues with asthma, skin irritants, eczema, digestive disorders. It's just not really for us. And the way that you really find out, because a lot of people say, oh, I can't live without my milk, I can't live without my cheese, is just remove it from your diet, even just for 1 week. Just for 1 week, and then try to reintroduce it. I remember when I was on my journey and I was trying to get off cheese, because that was like the hardest thing. Like cheese.
For most people say that it is. And I love pizza. I mean, of course, I still eat it now, and just the vegan cheese at times if I want it. But I love pizza, you know. So my daughter was like, "You can't eat pizza with me anymore." I was like, "Not the way that we were eating it. No, I can't," because I can see the effects on my digestive system and even, you know, throughout that, and you know what happens with the digestive system, and it's coming out either way.
Right.
And it's just really, I saw the effects of that firsthand, and I had seen it before I actually gave it up in January. I was seeing little signs, and each time I would do like you said, I would stop eating it for a little bit, then see, then stop eating it, then see. And I definitely said, okay, this is what it is, and I can't do dairy anymore. And then of course I started looking at, because for probably a year, it's so interesting because I'm thinking about this, and probably for a year I knew that it wasn't working for me. Like I knew it. And I was still eating cheese. I'm not even going to lie to you. Yes, exactly.
And there's so many additives and things that they put in the food that they're worse than drugs. Like food is a drug because of its addictive properties.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work to really wean yourself off of these things that you have grown to love. So I feel you. I've done the same thing. My mom would always say to me, well, how long are you going to allow it to make you feel like that before you give it up?
Boom. There you go. Right. And that's a wake-up call. And I was like, I cannot do it. And then the more research I was doing, I was like, I can't do that to myself. I can't kill myself in that way. And I'd be responsible for that. And really, that's what it's doing. And like you said, the mucus, the disease sticks to the mucus. So if someone here, I just pray that somebody is watching this and they're seeing what we're saying and hearing about that, and it provokes you to do more research, or it provokes you to say, you know what, let me just chill from that for a minute. Let me just take that out of my diet to see how I feel, to see what my skin looks like, to see what my waistline looks like, to see, you know, my health, because it's not just about the outer, you know, of the exterior. It's about inside, the interior of your body, and what it's doing to your organs and what it's doing to your actual health. Now, was that the first thing, Tacoma, that you stopped eating, or the first transition of changing your diet? What was the first thing you did when you said, you know what, I need to change some things?
The first thing that I did was, let's say, carbs and processed food. So I stopped doing drive-through. And then with carbs, because I know it's hard to get rid of it, I would either, if I had carbs for lunch, I would skip it for dinner. And then I gradually grew to the place where if I had carbs on Monday, Tuesday was no carbs. Have carbs Wednesday, Thursday is no carbs. And then eventually it got to the place where if I ate rice, it irritated my stomach. And it's only going to take you so many times to feel uncomfortable before you say, that's not working for me.
That's true.
And so I really tapped into how food made me feel, but I eliminated those carbs first. It was rice first. Then bread, and then pasta, because pasta is like bae for me. So that was kind of the last to go. And when bread for me, you know, but then I had a twofer because I liked the Red Lobster. Occasionally I would have the Red Lobster, Cheddar Bay biscuits. But now I can't eat cheese, so that worked out. It worked out. It worked out. Yeah, so I started with kind of removing carbs. And when I say remove, I always tell people in the beginning, while you're resetting your system, it's important to remove those things from your diet so that you see how you feel. And then you choose to gradually introduce them, perhaps it's a better quality. Maybe it's not white rice, maybe it's brown rice, or maybe it's black rice or a wild rice instead. And then you're only doing it sparingly. It's kind of like, because I also think that's the other thing. Sometimes we try to completely go cold turkey and get rid of everything. And what happens is we create a system where we begin to binge eat on the thing that we, because again, these are chemicals in your body.
Right.
And, so your body
it's all a mind thing too. It's all a choice, because if you think you can't have it, then you want more of that. That's just the nature of how the mind works. So if you forbid yourself and say, you know what, I'm forbidding this, I'm not doing this, I can't do this, then you're going to want more of it. But if you say, I'm changing my lifestyle for my health, it's about the words that you speak to yourself. If you say, I can't have this, then you're going to want more. But if you say, I'm doing this for my personal health, I want to be here for whatever, for myself, for my children, for my grandchildren, whatever it is, then that will give you more incentive to say, you know what, let me be the example. Let me show my family how you're supposed to eat and what you're not supposed to eat. Because you know, so many people, and it just bothers me, the ignorance, Tacoma, when people say, well, I'm gonna die from something, I can eat what I want. That drives me up a wall.
That's the most ignorant comment.
It sure is. It's like, so you want to kill your own self. By changing your diet, you can prolong your life, and people don't understand that. Now, I know when God calls you and it's time to go and you're done, you're gonna go. But while you're here, it's not, people want to say, okay, living your best life as a life coach. I've been saying it for years. I want to live my best life. But how are you living your best life when you're not eating to live?
Right, right. And that's the thing. People don't understand that food is for life, not necessarily for pleasure, but it should be feeding your cells and your organs for life. Yeah. And I always use the example with people, it's not necessarily about a diet and living your best life and completely eliminating, because there are people who physically appear healthy who have no issues. But what you want to do is, if you're ever in a position, and let's say you get in a bad car accident and you need surgery, major surgery, the way that you've taken care of your body could be the very thing that saves your life during that procedure.
And with COVID-19.
Yes. We're seeing that.
What we're going through right now, what you put into your bodies, how healthy you are on the inside, what are you eating, what supplements are you taking, what fruits and vegetables are you having, how regularly are you having your immune system up. And what really bothered me is when we first started the quarantine and the pandemic was all over the news, and they were threatening, this is before they were threatening to have a shutdown across the globe for us to be quarantined. People were running out, getting toilet paper, getting paper towels, getting all this foolishness. And when I went to go get fruits and vegetables and vitamins, fully stopped.
Fully stopped.
Fully stopped. And I'm like, y'all got the wrong idea. Because if you're not eating how you're supposed to eat, then you're not going to need the toilet paper anyway. Your bowels aren't moving. So
exactly.
Got it twisted.
Exactly. I said the same thing. Because, of course, I had the new baby, so I wasn't going out. But I remember sending out my boyfriend, and he would say, oh, you don't have to stockpile on, you know, your zucchini and your squash. There's plenty of that.
Right. And it's so funny because I was going to mention your baby towards the end, but I wasn't sure. I don't, you know, with certain things, I was like, let me just see if she mentions it. I know we talked about it on air. So you look wonderful after having a baby. Congratulations and blessings to you.
Thank you.
So tell everybody how old your baby is, and, you know, because you still look like you haven't gained or you lost what you gained. So how old is your baby?
He is 3 months. And look, surprisingly, I have not lost what I have gained. I got a lot of work to do. But I will tell you that, thank you. The choices that I made the years leading up to this pregnancy is truly what I feel made a difference in not only the entire pregnancy, but also my recovery after. It's completely different from how it was when I had my last child 9 years ago. Completely.
How so? So, okay, so that's good. That's a good place to kind of analyze. Okay, so when you had your first child or your second, because this is number 3, so how much did you weigh, if you don't mind sharing? And what was your lifestyle like? And then compare it to now, how much you weighed kind of beforehand and your lifestyle, the differences that you made in taking ownership of your health.
So before, probably with my 9-year-old, I was 224 when I went into labor.
Mm-hmm.
I was, I think, like 217 when I came home. So nothing much really lost. Prior to having her, I was living a rock style lifestyle. I enjoyed my share of beverages, and I ate what I wanted to eat. At that time, I was still eating beef, a little pork here and there, but chicken, heavy on the carbs. I was raised in South Carolina, so we cooked good old home down food. And you could tell a difference. I remember when I was in the hospital bed, my mother-in-law said, I didn't even recognize you because I had swole that much. So lupus,
wow.
a lot of inflammation in your system, and typically during pregnancy it may be very quiet, your lupus, because your immune system is kind of shut down because it's doing what it needs to do to take care of the baby. Like your body is occupied with developing a whole baby in there. But I was 224 when I delivered her, and then this pregnancy I started at 168. I think that's right. No, 164, because I was literally 9 pounds from my goal, which was 155.
Oh, wow.
I was so I don't even want to talk about it. But I delivered him full term at 194. So I gained exactly 30 pounds versus the 70 that I gained with my 9-year-old. And I didn't even start gaining weight until about 5.5, 6 months with him. Everybody always says from my pictures, you were all belly. I was all belly. I was so grateful. I felt good. I had energy. I stopped working out about 3 months in because he was just, even though the baby was little, the way that my uterus was positioned was super low. So it was recommended that I kind of chill out on my workout. So I did that. And then this recovery, I remember with my 9-year-old, I couldn't move in the hospital. They were begging me to get up and walk. It physically hurt to just lift my legs to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
It was not good. And this baby, I had him and I was up and moving around and can we go home today? Like, I'm ready to go.
And I think that's so important that you're saying this and you're really comparing the two. Now, we know all pregnancies are different, but this clearly is linked to, like you said, the rock star lifestyle and, drinking, eating carbs, not really watching what you were eating and the aches and the pains and the double weight gain you had for your first one, and then how you felt. You popped that baby out like the ancestors used to do back in the day, and went on about your business. Yes. And your skin, you look great. You look great. You do. And you went through. So you grew up? You're in North Carolina now, right?
Yes.
And you grew up in the South?
Yes, South Carolina. Big Sumter.
Okay. Oh, Sumter. One of my favorite independent movies was in Sumter. And years ago, that was the first time I had ever heard of it. It was did you remember when BET used to come out with the movies? They had the books and then they had the movies. It's one of those movies. Yep. That's so funny. And that's so funny because that's the only time outside. Of course, now I've heard about it a lot more, but you're the first person I've ever met from there.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. But that's just my personal, I can share that with my daughter because that's one of our favorite movies. But enough of that. I'm bringing all of that back around just to you grew up in the South. Mm-hmm. So in the South, there is a different way of eating, a different way of thinking, and just a whole different mindset when it comes to food. Mm-hmm. So is your family on board with this journey, or do they think that you're crazy? What you mean not eat any meat? What you mean not eat this? Because you hear people say that. Like, it's just not right. You don't eat chicken. And you hear people say these things.
It's a mixture. A lot of them understand. I do a lot of things. because I want to negate the effects of lupus long term.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've studied and analyzed, like I said, the Dr. Sabis, the Dr. Laila Africas, who have really worked with people to bring them healing of various disorders. And so in studying their lifestyle and their way of living, meat, dairy, and things of that sort are non-existent. White flour, white sugar. And as I begin to go on my personal journey, because I encourage everyone to do like in health and wellness coaching, we have something called bio-individuality. And that means what's for you is for you. No two people are alike, so no two lifestyles are going to be alike. But as I adopted some of the ways that they both spoke of, I noticed how I felt long term and how I felt short term. And in paying attention to those things, my family understands I'm doing what I have to do so I can continue to be here for my kids. I will get some snide comments, oh, well, I didn't make any vegetables that don't have meat, or, you're not going to eat this chicken. Doesn't it look good? But I had to start, I ate before I came. I'm good, actually. But I had came, before pregnancy, I was doing a lot of fasting. And intermittent fasting was so healing for me because it gave my body a chance to have a break. And
I'm doing it now. I've done it before and I'm doing that now, actually. Yeah.
And that's phenomenal because when you think about it, your body, even when you're resting, your body is constantly working. So if you can give it a break from having to process not only so many heavy foods, but food in general, and eat within a certain window of time, you will notice how much more energy you have, how much clearer your skin is, how much better your digestive system functions. For me, the intermittent fasting worked phenomenally. That's when I saw the largest decrease in my inflammatory markers with lupus. And my rheumatologist was like, what are you doing? Like, whatever it is, keep
How
doing
long did you do it? How long did you do it?
I did it for off and on for about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will, once I finish, because I'm nursing now, so I've just decided to give myself some grace on this journey. But I definitely
gave myself too much grace on this quarantine, because I was and as an entrepreneur, and you work. Ideas come 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning. I wouldn't have a whole meal, but I would have some popcorn or something like that. Where before the quarantine, I was very strict on my intermittent fasting journey, if you will. But I said definitely, and I started again this week, actually. I said I'm getting back on there because I was still doing it, but I wasn't doing it consistently. It might have been 2 days out the week I was doing it, and then I would slip up and maybe have some popcorn because I'm up. So I was doing.
So what I want to commend you for is at least trying. A lot of times we will fall off something and we will stay off. It's okay to fall off, but it's not okay to not get back on whatever that lifestyle looks like for you. So that's good.
Thank you. And I love juicing. I try to get up every morning and juice. I love that. I got to, after I finish this, I'll probably, or tomorrow, get some vegetables and do it again. Because you can have like a garbage bag full of vegetables and you can have 2 glasses, if that, and that's it.
Right.
Because you're bleeding almost the juice out of, think about it, kale.
Right.
So there's not that much, you can have a whole bushel.
Right.
But so you said, and it's interesting that you said intermittent fasting changed. You went to the doctor because you are a lupus warrior. You went to the doctor and your doctor said, what are you doing? And you told them intermittent fasting.
Yes. I encourage you to interview your doctors because you want to make sure you have the right chemistry. And that my physicians understand, like, we work together. It's wellness. We work together. So, they know that I know enough. I'm not going to do anything dangerous as it relates to my health, but I am on the more holistic side. If at all possible, I will avoid medications. I only allow them if it is just an absolute last resort. I remember my doctor, like, just give me 30 days, let me get it together. And then if it's not improved, then okay. So you can do things like that and have that open communication with your
I'm glad you're saying this. is so important because people have that white coat syndrome. Whatever the doctor says, that's what they believe, and they immediately go do it. Even if it's cutting off your leg, they immediately go. I remember my grandmother years ago, she's had cancer twice. Years ago, they told her she had breast cancer. She went to her doctor, the doctor said it, and she went and got a double mastectomy, just like that. And didn't even check. And I think so many people do that because they look at doctors almost as gods, like, well, they said it, instead of doing that. So I'm glad that you stressed the fact that you have to have a relationship. You can interview your doctors. They have to know what journey you're on and the things that you do and what your body means to you and what you're doing to help heal yourself. And then you can work together. So I like that you said you sat down, had the conversation and said, hey, just give me 30 days to see what I can do. And then we can do that. Because I think that's so critical because so many people get the prescription. Now, boop, 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 type it in, you go get it, and then you start taking it, and that's what you think is the end-all, be-all.
Right.
All along, you're not changing your diet. You're not watching what you put into your body. I mean, linked to heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes. I mean, we can go on and on and on. So lupus. So what would you, so that's so interesting and of course, believable to me, but some people might say, like, wow, she has lupus and intermittent fasting and watching what she put in her body stop some of the flare-ups, you know? So I want you to really, for those that don't know, explain to them it's an immune disease. We know that, but explain what lupus is. I know they've heard Tony Braxton, Nick Cannon, and a lot of people speak out about lupus, but tell them, one of my best girlfriends, she has it. Tell them what it is.
Lupus is an autoimmune disorder where your body, your cells and tissues, they attack themselves. So you have these good antibodies that are supposed to be helping to fight infection. They get a little confused, they're miswired, and what they do is they join the infection in the fight, which is not healing to your body. So in the simplest way, it's basically your body attacking itself, and it can attack various areas, your skin, your eyes, your organs. You hear a lot of people say it attacked their kidneys, Tony Braxton, your heart, different things. They don't even really know all the ways that it does affect it. It took a long time for them to figure out it was affecting my digestive system. For a while, they thought
but sometimes it takes a long time to even figure out that you have lupus, right?
Yeah, I was misdiagnosed for 10 years. They thought I had eczema.
And I wanted to stress that point as well. And that's about advocating for yourself and sometimes doing the research and having that relationship with your doctor that they're listening to you. And especially Black women, it's so important because they'll say you're strong because we have this superwoman syndrome. And they think we're strong, we can handle anything. This is a fact. This is not my opinion. You guys can research this. So, and Serena Williams almost died having her baby. Beyonce had complications, and so many other names we don't know because they say, well, you're fine, when people know that something is wrong with their body. So I'm just glad that you're touching on all the points that people need to be aware of. But you said you were misdiagnosed for 10 years. And as we know with lupus, famous person that you can relate it to is Tony Braxton. She was misdiagnosed as well. And so many other men and women are. So for 10 years, what did they think it was?
So for 10 years, they thought it was eczema. And here's what I'll tell you. So at the time I was about 12 years old. I went to Hawaii for the summer to visit my brother, and I swam every single day. But prior to going to Hawaii, I had my tetanus booster vaccination. And what a lot of people don't know is vaccines wake up the immune system. And so when I came back from Hawaii, I had this big black spot on the back of my leg. And they took a biopsy of it and they said, oh, no, that's just eczema. And then it turns out 10 years later, no, that wasn't.
And eczema comes from what you're eating too. But go ahead.
Yes. Eczema can come from what you're eating, especially dairy. It can be a huge trigger. All eczema is inflammation of the skin. It's your skin letting you know something's off balance within. and the things that we put on our body, they can further irritate it, but it typically begins within our system.
Yeah.
So I was misdiagnosed for 10 years. And then I don't even recall what sent me back to the doctor at 22 to get rechecked. I think it was because it was spreading and they weren't going away. And it was these different lesions on my legs. And so they did another biopsy and they sent it to MUSC in Charleston. And then that was where the final verdict came that it was lupus. And I was so worried.
After 10 years.
10 years.
Wow. So what was that diagnosis like? You said you were worried. Like, what was that when they said, okay, we've narrowed it down and we believe that you have lupus? What was that like to hear that?
I was petrified because at the time I was a single mom of a 3-year-old. And life, of course, at 22 is just really beginning. So I was really nervous because all you ever saw was the bad parts of lupus. I was fortunate that the school that I went to, one of the administrators, she was a Black woman. She had lupus, but I would see her struggles with it. I would see her, kind of get through it, but I would see where her hands would be, frozen together like this because of the inflammation. And then she would be out for weeks at a time, and then she would come back. So I was just like, I'm only 22. I was really nervous about that. And it should have been nervous enough for me to do better with my lifestyle. But I went in the opposite direction and I did not really take good care of my body.
And you were still young though. You were still young. And young, some people don't. Young and wanting to live your life and do what you want to do and eat what you want. Now a 22-year-old is different from probably when you were 22 and I was 22. They're really focused on health and wellness, and it's so readily available now, and researching and the foods. So, and in so many documentaries, really, if you're looking at it, I remember I showed my husband What the Health. He instantly changed, instantly. If anybody has seen, then he's the type, like once he found that out, then he was going from documentary to documentary to documentary. And he was eating the chicken, and I had changed. We had gotten married just, this is the second year. And when we got married and he was eating this and that, and I wasn't eating chicken and all of that, and he'd be like, oh, I forget. And now he's like, I won't say worse than me, but he's not touching nothing, not even a little bit. He went cold turkey. So I've heard people say, I'm not watching that because I'm not ready to give up meat. Have you heard people say that?
They have, and I'm like, that's so ignorant.
Yeah. And people are saying it. But talked about Dr. Sebi, and for some, he resurfaced when Nipsey Hussle died. The first time I had ever heard about him is when Left Eye from TLC went on her journey in Honduras. She went to go study with him, and she started talking about, that was the very first time I heard him. And now when Nipsey died, there's almost like a resurgence of that. And so many people are talking about Dr. Sebi and the studies, and then Dr. Africa. So talk about both of them. We'll start with Dr. Sebi. And what did you learn from reading and his study?
From Dr.
And who is
Sebi,
it? Tell the people.
From Dr. Sebi, what I learned the most was the mucus in our diet from dairy and processed foods, and that disease cannot survive in an alkaline environment. So he speaks about an alkaline diet, well, not really an alkaline diet, but an alkaline lifestyle. And so that's going to be removing all of your processed foods. A lot of vegetables today that we think are regular vegetables like broccoli and cabbage, these are all hybrids, meaning they were created, cross-pollinated with other vegetables to create them. So they aren't from God. They don't come from earth. They were man-made. Even though it was hundreds of probably thousands of years ago, they aren't the natural foods that were created here on this earth when we arrived. And so I learned that there's it seems like a short list, but you do have a variety of foods that you can eat. I encourage you to go Google the Alkaline Diet by Dr. Sebi so that you can see the list of foods that he is considered alkaline that are approved and acceptable to eat. Of course, you're not going to find any like meats, any dairies and things of that nature. You'll find a lot of spices, a lot of vegetables, and a lot of fruits. So that's what I adopted from Dr. Sebi. And it's becoming an alkaline, what they call vegan, is a challenging way of life, because a lot of foods you have to really go out and find or grow yourself, but also you're very, very restrictive. I have not arrived there yet in just complete honesty, but I am mindful and conscious about it when I'm doing my shopping. So there are certain foods that I avoid. Like I don't buy broccoli anymore. We don't eat it anymore. I don't really do the cabbage anymore because of the same reasons. Because when you're putting foods that were hybrid versions into your system, your body cannot break those foods down because it doesn't know how. And then with Dr. Laila Africa, his thing is white sugar and white flour. So when you look
anything white,
anything white. Exactly. And so his philosophy is the way that sugar affects the body and how diseases are created or further grown and enhanced just from eating things like sugar. If you can pretty much eliminate sugar from your diet, you will see a complete turnaround with your health. Unfortunately, he passed away not too long ago, earlier this year, just before COVID. But I was so happy that he had done so much work. So he has courses online that you can still learn from. Of course, tons of books that are available for purchase. His wife continues on with his legacy. So definitely also check out his website and see if that's something that's for you. A lot of his books teach like you're in class. Think about anatomy and physiology, where it has the draw up of the body and what's going on. And he breaks down the chemical compounds of different foods and substances and how they affect the body. So very scientific and very detailed, but still, if you're not the science person, just go into it just a little bit to see what he speaks about. And of course, both of these guys have teachings that are on YouTube, so you can always learn that way as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Terrence Sanders, the CMOS dad. He is doing an alkaline diet, and he is serious about Dr. Sebi and what he's trying to do. And so many people are. And it's almost like once you learn, you can't unlearn. You're then responsible for what you know. And it's so hard. And you mentioned sugar. That's the most challenging for a lot of people. To have that, and processed foods. I don't do processed foods. If I do, it's very, very rare. I'm very conscious and mindful of the processed foods and all of that stuff, even some of the vegan options and all of that. You still got to be mindful of that. And sugar is, I've been trying to do that too, slowly but surely. But most people have so much trouble with sugar. And there are so many adverse effects to sugar, what it does to our bodies. But like you said, food sometimes are drugs, and sugar really is a drug. They say being addicted to sugar outweighs anything, alcohol, marijuana, whatever you're taking, sugar is that number one drug. So how are you with sugar? And someone comes to you, as their holistic coach, and they're saying, you know what, Tacoma or Miss Lewis, I want to change my lifestyle. What should I do? I love sugar. I love dairy. What should I do? Like, what's the first thing you would tell them?
So as a health coach, I don't tell you to do anything. I work alongside you.
I love that.
Because it has to be a partnership.
Yeah, as a life coach, I can appreciate that. That's exactly what I said. I'm glad that you just perfect answer. That's all I'm going to say. I was like, she's going to answer just like, and you did. I'm glad you did. Because you got to be a part of your own, right? You got to be a part of your own rescue. Like you got to be a part of this. I'm not going to do the work for you. So I'm glad that you said, continue. I'm sorry.
So I just tell them, one of the easiest things that you can do to start today is, I wish I had a label here, read labels. The average amount of sugar that someone my age is supposed to have, I think, is around 23 grams of sugar per day. I feel like I looked at
some people get that in a drink. One drink.
Yes. I looked at, was it a candy bar I wanted in the store? Yeah. And it was these dark chocolate, Trader Joe's, the Reese's cups, their version of them. Three of them was like 23 grams of sugar. I was like, well, dang, that's the whole day blown. So I'm good. So I do trade-offs like that, but start reading your labels and don't just look on the dessert label. Look at the label on your milk carton, whether it's almond milk or full dairy. Look at the label on the pasta, the bread. Condiments, especially, because a lot of people, oh, I eat salads, but it's 5 tablespoons of dressing on the salad, and 1 or 2 tablespoons is the serving size with 22 grams of sugar. So reading labels will really, really help you cut down on it, because like you said, you become mindful and it's hard to unsee what you've seen. And then you go into the store and you think of alternative ways. Instead of getting dressing, you're using lemon dressing, fresh lemon and olive oil. On your salads, instead of going, straight for salad dressing. Or you're looking up recipes. It's so simple just to whip up your own really quick. And then finding alternative methods. So if you are like a coffee drinker or a tea drinker, honey, you still want to be mindful of that because of the sugar in it as well. But you can do things like not agave nectar. Just because you asked me, I can't even call it monk fruit. Or coconut palm sugar. Those are like better alternatives for you.
Oh, I've never had that. Coconut palm sugar. I have to look that up.
It's pretty good. It's going to be like a dark brown sugar. Again, we want to avoid things white.
Did they have that? They have that at Trader Joe, don't they?
Yep.
I think I've seen that. It's next to the agave. Actually.
Yep. But if you can, monk fruit is one of the better ones for you. But I always tell people to do things gradually. And monk just start.
You're saying monk fruit?
Yes.
MUNK?
Yes.
Fruit?
Yes.
So is it actually a fruit, or is it almost like sugar form? Or
right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you want to give those things a try and gradually remove yourself. Don't go get the aspartame, the Sweet and Low, the Splenda, that kind of stuff. I almost would recommend you just do regular sugar if you're going to.
Right. That's cancer forming.
Do that, or pure cane at least. But gradually. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the alternatives to sugar are cancer forming foods because of the chemicals they contain. That's why I said I'd rather you, if you're going to do it, then do pure white cane sugar if that's the case. But just reading those labels and being mindful of it, and then gradually reducing it. Understanding that carbs, when they break down in your body, they form sugar. And that's why you'll hear a lot of diabetics. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and her mom was just diagnosed. She doesn't really eat a lot of sweets, but she loves carbs. And she said, the doctor just told us that the carbs break down in our body and form sugar. Exactly. And the other thing is flush your system with pure water, whether you choose to purchase alkaline, and I know there's different philosophies on purchasing versus making your own, or you prefer just to make your own water with lime juice in it. Either of those two, but drink water, flush your system with water.
And it's so important. And let's talk about to get moving and heart healthy and that part of your health and interjecting that into it. Let's talk about walking. What are the benefits of just walking? I want you as the expert, because I can say it all day, but you as the expert, please tell our viewers the importance of walking.
Just getting out in nature in general is good for your body. You kind of start to feel good, and it's because we're of Earth. Okay. But walking, you have your increased lung capacity and respiratory system. It helps with your heart rate. It helps with your arteries. It helps to get the blood flow pumping. And it's something that's so simple that we avoid. Like, we will fight one another for the park at the front of the store versus going like the 3 parks down.
It's true.
Yeah, but walking is so beneficial. I remember when I first started my workout journey, it was never for a weight loss. It was really because Spirit kept telling me you need to improve your organs, your heart and your lungs. You need to really focus on it. And I remember I could only do like 15 minutes on the treadmill, and I was exhausted. Again, I had so much inflammation throughout my body from the lupus, and my joints weren't moving because I wasn't moving them. So everything hurt, but I would go to the gym at 5 a.m. at the optimal time when I had zero excuses except the bed feels good. And I would go do my 10-minute walk. I would go wipe my face, and then I'd come back the next day. And then what happened gradually over time is I built up that endurance to where I could do 45 minutes on the elliptical or 30 minutes on the Stairmaster with no problem. So start where you are, and walking is a great way to start a healthy lifestyle. It's refreshing, rejuvenating, it's very, very low impact, but it's so good for your heart and your lungs. Take deep breaths in and take deep breaths out in order to, because we don't use our lung capacity. That's the other thing. So walking will help to kind of encourage those things, and you move your arms. I remember my mom always walking and moving her arms.
Yesterday, I was so mad because I walk with my daughters every day. I think it's so important. And then my birthday is June 17th, and I have been doing this 17-day walk challenge to walk every day. Because sometimes I'll just walk maybe 4 or 5 times a week, but I've committed to walking every single day. And yesterday I was like, oh man, y'all didn't remind me, because I wanted to incorporate my weights, like you just said, moving your arms, because that increases your heart rate and your lung capacity. And especially the older you get, but I don't want the older people to say, okay, now I should start. You should start when you're younger and get in the habit of doing it. That way it becomes a part of life, because when it's about eating and exercising, it's to make it a part of your life, not saying I'm on a diet or I need to exercise to get into this dress or to drop a pan size. It's a lifestyle, just having a healthy lifestyle. And we can all do better. Tacoma's not perfect, neither am I, but it's just committing to your health. Would you agree, Tacoma?
Absolutely. Just make that commitment. Like I said, it's okay if you fall off. Just get back on. It happens. We're human. Like, I haven't worked out yet, and I keep saying every day, Tacoma, you got to get up and do something, because I want to sleep. It's hard work nursing.
Yeah. You have a newborn. A newborn. But
I'm queen, no excuses, because, we make time for what we want to do. If we're being honest. But I'm granting myself.
Put that baby on your chest and get to walking.
That's what I said. It's so hot here in Carolinas now. I said I almost have to get up at 5 a.m. just to beat the heat of the day.
Because I'm going to go to at night at 7:30. That's usually when I like to do it, like 7:30. But although I went yesterday at 8 o'clock, almost 8 o'clock, I was finishing up. I did about 3 or 4 miles. It was still hot at 8 o'clock, and I'm in Maryland, so it was still hot. I like being outside. I don't like the treadmill. I don't like the mundane, feeling
of
getting on the treadmill. See, it's mundane to me because I'm counting. I'm looking at the time. Okay, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, dang, I'm only at 7 minutes. I'm only at 15. But when I'm outside, I love being outside, and I'm looking at the houses, looking at the people, looking at, and there's hills and then there's dips. It's natural. So I prefer that. So you have both of us here. She's saying she prefers the elliptical. I'm saying I prefer being outside. So it's what you're comfortable with, what you will continue to do. I know me, if I had to commit to getting on the elliptical machine every day, I'm not going to do it. I'm not. So I know that, and if maybe with you, if you had to go outside, you might, look, she's shaking her head.
Not gonna, it's too hot, it's raining.
Right. So it's what works for you. And even in the house, I have my dumbbells, I have my kettlebell, I have my resistance band, and what else? My jump rope. They say if you jump rope 10 minutes a day, that's equivalent to 30 minutes of walking.
10 minutes. And it's so
now
good.
If you can only jump 1 minute, that means that you got to walk some more and get your stamina up, and then take it to 2, take it to 3. But just really having that conversation. I love that Tacoma said that, having a conversation with your doctor for your benefit, to see what you need to do. So what are your goals as a health coach? Where do you see yourself going with this, and how long have you been certified? I know we talked about some things in your bio, but how long have you been certified And where do you see yourself going with this career and your health journey and your lifestyle? Maybe not even 5 years, 2 years from now.
I got certified in 2018. And I am currently enrolled in the Institute of Integrative Nutrition because I wanted to do their health coaching program as well. I've got a lot of friends that have raved about it. And currently, I just really work one-on-one with the everyday person that seems to have those challenges. Where I really see myself is continuing to do that, but also partnering with physicians. Because I remember a lot of times the doctor would say, eat right and exercise. And you're like, okay, I hear you. You just leave. That was always the closing remark. But there was never anybody there to help you with that eat right and exercise.
Good. That's good.
Because a nutritionist is different from a health coach. And health coaching encompasses all areas of your life, not to replace a therapist or a life coach or your pastor or whatever those other, your financial, advisor. That's not it, but it's really to help you understand that your health includes all of these things, your careers, your relationships, your finances, and
that wholeness,
that holistic approach.
Yeah.
So I would really love to partner with physicians' offices to really work one-on-one with clients for them to help them with that healthier eating, that diet, and really get to the root cause of what it is. Because a lot of times it doesn't always have to do with I love sugar, I love carbs. It's what's triggering me to want those things. I remember when I first came home from the hospital with the baby, sugar addiction was unreal. Through Googling, I learned that apparently when you breastfeed, your interest in sugar is heightened. I had no idea, but I was eating chocolate chip cookies like a crazy lady.
Yeah.
So really, I would love to work with physicians, definitely in the inner cities. Of course, huge advocate for my own people. I would really like to help us get our health in line, working one-on-one, doing different seminars. But I feel like the greatest reach is definitely going to come with partnerships with physicians' offices that are open to that. And a lot of them, honestly, are becoming more open to it because they can't handle the caseload of patients. They can't really them and spend the amount of time that they need to with them to get to the causes of these different disorders. And I think they're kind of getting frustrated with putting Band-Aids on top of the issues and not really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what's going on.
Yeah. I think, Tacoma, that is an amazing idea. And I think that you would be superb in that role. And you're right. You're absolutely right. You're welcome. You're absolutely right. Excuse me. You're absolutely right, because they'll tell you to exercise and to eat healthy. And then the person leaves and then they go to the drive-thru at McDonald's, which is next door to the doctor's office.
Yep.
And they'll go get a Snicker or go get a this, and because it's comfort. So I like what you have to find your triggers, and you have to want your health more than you want that instant gratification, because it's just instant. Because once you realize what it's doing to your body and how you feel after, you're gonna be like, oh, why did I eat those fries? Why did I, so to avoid that, you really gotta go on that personal journey. And I like that she said that. And I have even a journal that I did for other people, my personal journey, because I think it's so important, because we're all on a different journey, but we all want optimal health. And I think that's really the key. This has just been amazing. I'll definitely have to have you back for sure.
Thank you.
I want to do a moment of silence before we close out, and then I'm going to come back to you. But a moment of silence for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for all of the other nameless people that weren't caught on tape that we don't know about. It's so important that we just take a minute throughout our day and just think about those. The other day I woke up thinking about Breonna Taylor in her bed, because it's driving while Black, walking while Black, standing while Black, eating ice cream on your couch while Black. Right, exactly. Eating Skittles while Black, eating a hood, wearing a hood while Black, bird watching while Black, barbecuing while Black, having a lemonade stand while Black, just standing there picking your nose while Black. It really is come down to that. Now it's sleeping while Black.
Right.
Now it's breathing while Black. So I just want to just take a moment to have a moment of silence for all of the names we know and all of the names we don't know. And let's not just make them a hashtag. Let's really think about them throughout our days. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. As just a responsible brand and a responsible person and just being socially aware of what's happening, I wouldn't even feel good in my soul not to acknowledge that during this time. Just like I acknowledge quarantining and COVID-19 and practicing social distancing and being safe. Wear your mask, wear your gloves. It is not over. Don't let folks trick you into thinking that this COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic, I should say, is over. It's not over. So we have to be mighty mad to be out there protesting, some with masks, some with not. So that goes to show you. So my prayers for everyone out there protesting. I even did it last week. So my prayers, and it wasn't as big as some of them, so I was able to social distance. But if you're in a city and you're protesting and you're not able to exercise social distancing, I'm praying for you, praying that, that you come out as healthy as you went in or even healthier. All right, so Tacoma, thank you so much for letting me do that. I think it's so important to do that. And I want to ask you, before we leave, how has COVID-19 affected you, your business, your health, if anything, any family members? And then I also want to ask you, how do you feel as a Black woman seeing what's happening with our people or to our people?
So COVID-19, it has struck my family. We've had some relatives that got it, were able to fight it, and they are well. Unfortunately, I did lose my grandfather to it.
Wow.
So that saddens me, that we've lost life with this disease that's going around, or this virus that's been spreading. What I feel as Black women, especially, we have a power that we don't even tap into as sacred women to heal the earth and heal the planet through our own vibrations. And in order for us to really tap into that power, we have to work on our own healing. The world is suffering because we are suffering. And it is important for us to take control of our own healing. It's no one else's responsibility to heal us from trauma from childhood and even adulthood. So that starts by really going within. And if we can go within and heal ourselves, we will then be able to collectively unite, even not in the same room, just by being on a certain vibrational frequency, that we can command total healing. We can stop the brutality. We can stop the violence. I want us as Black women to understand how truly powerful we are. And we really, really, really need to get control of ourselves, as well as pull back and get control of the younger generation. Because I'm telling you, they are really, really the generation to make some things happen. And so we want to make sure that we instill the right things within them so they have the tools necessary to do that. Battle does not always have to necessarily be marching. It doesn't have to be violence. Battle can be silence within your own home, in your own corner, whether you call it your prayer closet or your meditation room. We are very powerful as Black women and beings, and I really want to encourage us to tap into that.
Yes, I love that. That's a perfect way to end this show. She's saying tap into your power, your vibrations, your frequency. Watch the energy that you put out. See if you can help someone. You don't have to do it publicly on social media or by protesting. You can donate silently. You can, check on your friends, see if they're okay, see if they need anything. Do they have a mask? How are they feeling? What is their energy like watching the news? Telling them to maybe chill and watching social media and scrolling through social media with everything that's happening. Give your mind a rest, give your body a rest, and just give yourself a break and allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling during this time. I want everybody to stay safe. I want you to love your family members. I want you to pray for Tacoma's grandfather and everybody who has lost their life due to COVID-19, who has lost their life by being murdered by the police. You know, that really, it chokes me up. I've been choked up a lot with this and thinking about this, what's happening. Just, I'm glad on one hand because I'm seeing some change, you know, because people have protested before, we've marched before, you know, men and women have been murdered by the police, but this is something different. And I think the way that it happened with the knee with George Floyd and not a gun, like it was personal. Later we find out that he knew him. They worked together at a club doing security and bouncing. So just that whole venom that some people have for Black folks. Check yourself if you are one of them. And that's even a Black person to another Black person. Right. Check yourself. Check yourself. Before you start talking about what other is doing and what white folks are doing, check yourself. And I'm going to leave with that. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. I've just been tongue-tied this whole show, so you have to pardon me. You know, this kind of thing is really, I'm just going to go for my walk and get back to me, because it's a lot going on, y'all. So just stay safe. If no one told you you were amazing today, I'm telling you right now. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe below. You have been watching Kendell Lenice Live. Thank you, Tacoma. Thank you. Tell the people how they can get in touch with you.
The best way to reach out to me is through Instagram at Tacoma Speaks. That's where you'll find all my contact information.
All right. Be safe. God bless.